There are many hill forts in Wales, vast, naturally imposing fortresses of our ancestors. The place is famous for them. Yet few are located in such an evocative setting as Dinas Emrys. Deep in the heart of Snowdonia, rising some 76 metres above the floor of the Glaslyn River Valley, this place has been a refuge for millennia, a hideaway for tyrants, rife with Arthurian legend and genuine medieval archaeology. We're just here for an afternoon, but what an afternoon it will be. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you'd like to see me visit next. It's wet, another facet of life Wales is famous for, with promise of more rain on the way. There's an upside to this, of course. We have the whole place to ourselves. Having no time to waste, we head up into the woodland, groves of Welsh oak ominously peering down at us like Ents from Lord of the Rings. Not far from here is a field once filled with a thick grove of oak trees like these. According to local legend, this grove of the magicians, long since cut down, was a meeting place for the tyrant Vortigern and his wise men. A council to discuss the difficult times they lived through and their wars against the Saxon invaders. Flanked by ancient masonry and a thick blanket of green-hued moss, it's easy to see how myth and legend became so heavily attached to this place. Although, in reality, back when this place was a centre of power, this pathway would have been largely cleared of woodland. Trees aren't much good for mounting a defence. Any attacking warband could use them for cover. I wonder how many bands of warriors came through this way all those centuries ago. Those rocks up there would be perfect for an ambush. Landmarks in Britain associated with the likes of King Arthur and Merlin the Wizard are almost too numerous to count. Wells, rivers, streams, natural hills, even ancient monuments built thousands of years before the age of Arthur coat the western side of Britain, from the Hebrides to Cornwall, all claiming some sort of tenuous link to the great early medieval heroes themselves. Dinas Emrys is no exception. This is Merlin's Pool. Of course, we know today that it's pretty unlikely these figures ever existed outside of the later Arthuriana of high medieval writers, which eventually enveloped them. But if even some semblance of the mythic figures did exist in reality, maybe there is some sort of tenuous link with Dinas Emrys, for here is a much better claim than most. For this fortress, according to the 9th century writer Nennius, and several other traditions, was built by a figure known to history as well as legend, Vortigern, the overlord of Britain and great tyrant of the King Arthur legend. Later elaborated upon by the medieval writer Geoffrey of Monmouth. According to the tale, Vortigern repeatedly attempted to build a fortress here, seeking refuge from his unsuccessful wars against the Saxon invaders. Each time he attempted to build his fortress, the masonry would fall down, until eventually 2 fierce dragons locked in combat were revealed under the hill in a pool, now known as Merlin's Pool. A red dragon and a white dragon, representing the British and their Saxon enemies respectively. Perhaps based partly on an even earlier legend of Lud, King of Britain, who trapped 2 dragons that were ravaging the land. The tale goes on to say that the red dragon, now seen on the Welsh flag, will eventually triumph over the white, thus fulfilling a prophecy. There's more to the story too. Astonishingly, when archaeologists excavated here in 1910 and later in the 1950s, they found several periods of habitation on the site. The earliest date back to the Iron Age, perhaps to the 1st or 2nd centuries BC. Other traces suggest habitation during the 5th century, which would put it right in the time frame for Vortigern and the hero Ambrosius Aurelianus, perhaps part of the inspiration for the later King Arthur legend. Finally, in a curious twist, the archaeologists found some sort of a pool or well within the enclosure, with a platform overhead, both thought to be artificial in construction. According to the archaeologists, the walls had also been poorly built of stone 2 or 3 times, perhaps inspiring the legend's reference to the collapsing building during construction. Leaving the forested pathway for a moment, we catch our first glimpse of the hill fort. Any doubts to the authenticity of this place immediately disappear. It's a commanding position, with 360-degree views, capable of dominating the entire valley with only a garrison of a handful of men. Imagine it without trees, and you're getting slightly closer to what it would have looked like in its prime. Though, of course, it remains ever difficult to get to the real picture of the early Middle Ages, a time for which almost no written sources survive. The original way to get to the top was on a steep path on the western side of the fort. This entrance from the northeast is a later addition. Stunning views all around. We're nearly at the top. So this is it. We're atop Dinas Emrys. an ancient hill fort. Scant little remains of the Iron Age hill fort and medieval castle structures which once stood here, save a few stone ramparts and the base of a keep. Right then. In the 1950s, archaeologist H.N. Savory described the original walls here as nearly 3 meters thick, exploiting every irregularity of the rocky hilltop to enclose an area many thousands of meters squared. These were mostly dated to the 11th century and later, though some at least could have been as early as the later Roman period and the early Middle Ages, the time of Vortigern and Ambrosius Aurelianus. In reality, besides archaeology, we know tantalisingly little about this place. Whether Ambrosius Aurelianus really did come here, we'll probably never know. But it's interesting to wonder anyway. Much later traditions rather romantically hold that the castle here, still clearly visible today, was erected by Llywelyn the Last of Gwynedd, one of the last fighters against the English, in order to guard the mountain passes into his heartlands further to the west. In actuality, archaeology suggests it to be much earlier, dating to the 11th century, a testament to a time of immense power for the rulers of Gwynedd, when for a brief time their royal family ruled over all of Wales. Though no written records exist of this place, leaving its actual construction a mystery. So what's your opinion of Dinas Emrys, Dad?
Pretty druidic.
Yes, it is. I leave Dinas Emrys completely certain in my conviction, as I am for many sites around Britain, that more archaeology needs to be and should be carried out here. As far as I'm aware, it's been nearly 70 years since this place was investigated. What more secrets lie hidden beneath the earth, just waiting to be found? You've been watching History Time on Tour. Let me know in the comments where you'd like to see me visit next. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.